I have to unshare and then share. I am letting people in, so
I
we
can
will.
see. Yeah.
Okay.
Just tell me when to start.
All right. All right. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Keith Thompson. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the College of Engineering. Today, Dr. Marlena Lester and myself are going to talk to you about joining the College of Engineering and adjusting to college life. Marlena and I are part of a broad system of student support at Virginia Tech. We are here to help support you through your time transitioning into college and being successful through to getting a degree. We both want to thank you for choosing Virginia Tech for your college experience. Today's orientation will contain a lot of advice you're going to need to be successful in college, and particularly in an engineering program. This presentation has a lot of information in it, but most of the things we say today will be reiterated throughout your first year at Virginia Tech, so don't worry if it doesn't all sink in. Marlena, can you go to the next slide? So Virginia Tech is recognized as an educator of high-quality engineering students. There will be high expectations of performance, but you're also going to be offered many opportunities to participate in engineering competition teams, undergraduate research, and interact with many other students of similar capability and passion as yourself. We admitted you because we think you have the potential to be a successful student here. That doesn't mean that you won't face various struggles adjusting from high school to college life, but that sort of struggle is very common, and it's a good opportunity for you to learn and mature. The other thing to be aware of is that the College of Engineering is also pretty big. In the fall of 2024, we expect to have about 10,000 undergraduate students in the college. That size allows us to offer a lot of things that smaller universities are often not able to do, and that includes more options for majors and more opportunities for specialized student experiences. However, it can also be very easy to feel lost with that many students. So understanding how to identify sources of help at Virginia Tech will be a very important skill for you to develop. Let's move to the next slide. So first, I want to talk a little about expectations. Your experience at Virginia Tech will be different from high school or community college in a lot of different ways. Life management is going to be different. No one is going to directly monitor you. You will have a lot more autonomy to make your own choices, but you will need to master things like your own time management, study routines, and juggling of your academic responsibilities. At the same time, you're also going to need to solve a lot of day-to-day life tasks, such as getting your laundry done, keeping your space in order, eating properly, managing money, and so on. I'm sure that some of you are already used to this, but for many of you, this is going to be your first time handling so many of these things on your own. In addition to navigating life, students also need to learn how to navigate the university. By this, I mean the numerous rules, requirements, and deadlines that are common for a large university. We have rules about academic standards, rules for academic integrity, rules about degree requirements, timelines for adding and dropping classes, changing your major, and other critical matters. We don't grant many exceptions to these rules. You will need to be very conscious about deadlines and plan things to make sure you meet those deadlines. Most deadlines you encounter at Virginia Tech are strictly enforced, whether it's a due date for an assignment, a deadline to apply for an opportunity, or a deadline to take action on a university process such as adding or dropping classes. We also have a large bureaucracy of many different offices and specialized personnel, and that can be confusing to work with. However, each of you is going to have an assigned academic advisor, and that person will typically your best first stop if you have any questions. You will need to spend time figuring stuff out, and it's best for you to become your own advocate in working with faculty and other personnel across the university. Most of the faculty and administrators I know are thoughtful, understanding people, but there will be limits on how much they can bend policy if you're asking for some exception to the rules. It's a good thing for you to have to adapt to these types of tasks. You'll come out of college much more ready to live on your own and juggle the routines of your life while you're starting a career. Let's move to the next slide. One of the things I cannot stress enough is how much you need to check and read your emails. Your Virginia Tech email, your vt.edu email, will be the official contact method between the university and you. Make sure that you check it. During the academic year, we try to help students by sending messages regarding upcoming deadlines and other requirements. Please keep an eye out for these and make sure you read those messages. Don't let them get assigned to your spam folder. Up until recently, we've been using the email associated with your application for admission. That might have been a Gmail account, a Hotmail account, or something else. You should have already received instructions on how to set up your vt.edu email by now. And if you haven't already done that, please do that immediately after this orientation. With all that said, please don't expect immediate responses when you send someone an email or expect to be able to meet someone if you just drop by without an appointment. All of the advisors we have work with many, many students, and they likely have other tasks that they're responsible for. It's not unusual for them to be fully booked up on any given day. The timeliness in asking questions will be very important for you to understand. And the need for urgency is often not necessary if you are proactively reading the communications we send out and paying attention to the upcoming deadlines. Let's move to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about your classes. Instruction at Virginia Tech may feel very different from the instruction you had in high school or in community college. There will be much more emphasis on comprehension of foundational theory rather than memorization of formulas or facts and figures. The material may be presented in a less structured manner. There's going to be a higher expectation for you to absorb material with less direction, particularly by reading and studying outside of class. And you're going to need to learn to be more of an independent learner. Myself, for instance, I didn't have any clue how to study when I first went off to college because I had never really needed to do that in high school. So in addition to learning the material for your classes, if you're like me, you're going to have to relearn how to study and find the best methods that work for you. You're also going to want to pay close attention to the expectations of instructors and make sure you start your assignments earlier. Like I've said before, many instructors are very rigid on due dates and they won't accept late work. They may expect your work to fit very specific formatting standards, and they may not give partial credit for incomplete work. Don't wait until the day before a due date to begin looking at an assignment. You're also going to want to set aside time each day to review material from your courses, even if you don't have something that's due later in the week. The typical rule of thumb is 2 to 3 hours outside of class for every hour that you spend in class. So for a typical 15 credit course load, that's going to be around 15 hours in class each week, plus another 30 to 45 hours working on assignments or studying outside of class. That adds up to more than a standard full-time job. Let's move to the next slide. I need to include a special warning here about Chegg, ChatGPT, and other types of resources that you can find online. Virginia Tech has an honor code, and academic misconduct is taken very seriously by the university. Sanctions for academic misconduct include an F-star grade, which is a failing grade for an entire class with a special notation that looks like an asterisk that goes on the transcript. This is the most common sanction that's imposed by the Office of Undergraduate Academic Integrity. Multiple offenses of the honor code can result in suspension or even expulsion from the university. So it's really important that you pay attention to the rules of conduct expected for completing assignments or exams in each of your classes. And they may be different from class to class. You're going to have to read the syllabus that's provided for every class to understand its policies and make sure you're paying attention. Let's move to the next slide. So while we want to encourage students to be their own advocates and do things on their own, we are aware that the bills are often paid by families and that families can be making a significant investment of money, time, and emotional concern in the success of their students. Thus, I want to speak a little bit about how families and their students can partner together. You will want to encourage your student to read their emails and meet their advisor at least once a semester to touch base on their academic plans. Particularly at the end of each semester, try to have a safe conversation to check in on how the grades were and at the end of each semester. Typically, a student should try to earn around 15 to 17 credits each semester so that they can stay on track to complete their degree within 4 years. And they're going to need to maintain a grade point average that's 2.0 or higher, which is about a C average or better, not a C minus, a C or better. For some majors, this GPA will need to be higher. For example, computer science has been a highly demanded major, and we've only been able to admit students with a 3.0 or higher GPA into that major. That's a B grade average or better. Let's move to the next slide. At the end of each semester, when the GPA is recalculated, an academic standing will be assigned. Good standing means that the GPA is 2.0 or higher. That's where we want our students to be. The first semester that a student's overall GPA drops below 2.0, they will end that semester with the status of first probation. If that occurs, the student has their next fall or spring semester to raise their overall GPA, or they will face first suspension. If a student is placed on first suspension, they will need to sit out through the next fall or spring semester. The vast majority of engineering students are doing well. They have good standing. However, around 5% will end their first semester on a first probation status. About half of that 5% will pay attention to the warning that came from their first probation status, and they'll make changes that will allow them to get back to good standing by the end of their next semester, that spring semester. Some other students out of that 5% will opt to leave. They'll decide that engineering is not really what they want to do, or maybe Virginia Tech isn't the best fit for them. They'll make another plan and they'll go pursue that. But around a third of that 5% will end their first spring semester on a first suspension status at the end of their first year. It's possible to recover after returning from a first suspension, but it can be hard. It's better if students recognize when problems are happening and if they have a support group in their family to have an honest conversation about what they're going through, what they're experiencing, and what they might do to change things. So I want to encourage a safe conversation at the end of each semester about grades. Let's go to the next slide. As officials of this university, Marlena and I have access to all variety of academic information about students. However, we are prohibited from talking to families about students unless we have permission to do so. Student academic information is protected by the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which is commonly just called FERPA. Permission can be provided by a student by assigning a passcode to their family members. If I get a call from a parent, or if Marlena gets a call from a parent, or if any of the academic advisors get a call from a parent, we're going to ask for that passcode, and we'll go look in the system to verify that it's correct before we're able to talk to a parent in any specific way about a student. Students can also grant guest access in Hokie Spa, allowing parents to check that system directly rather than having to contact a person at the university. So I encourage a discussion with your student about FERPA access and what sort of rules you want about navigating discussions with the university involving parents. Let's move to the next slide. So before I wrap up my part of this presentation, I want to emphasize a lot of the ways that we try to support student success at Virginia Tech and in the College of Engineering. There are numerous opportunities for support, some of which are shown on this slide. And if you use the QR code or the link that's provided on the slide, you can go to our website that shows these resources. We have a counselor from Cook Counseling Center who is embedded within the college. She works exclusively with engineering students. The university also maintains a student success center that provides tutoring support services and other types of academic support. Computer science, which is our largest program, maintains their own tutoring service space in Torgerson Hall. We have a group called SWAT, S-W-A-T, that stands for Software Assistance Triage. They are also located in Torgerson Hall. They're there to help students with any computer or software needs. So for example, if a student has a laptop that they rely on, suddenly it goes bad, they can go to SWAT and they can often get a loaner laptop to cover them until they can get their permanent laptop fixed. The Dean of Students Office is a good resource if you have any type of life emergency. I strongly encourage either parents or students to reach out to them if there's any type of death in the family that's going to require a student to take time off from classes. They can also help direct a student to other types of resources across the campus if a student is facing some sort of financial emergency or other type of problem. I also want to mention the college's Center for the Enhancement of Engineering Diversity, are CEED or SEED. Among their various services, they offer a peer mentoring program that pairs freshman students with upper level students for mentoring. They also manage our two living learning communities, Galileo and Hypatia. If you had any disability accommodations in high school or were on an individual educational plan, an IEP, I strongly encourage you to contact the Services for Students with Disabilities office at Virginia Tech and make use of accommodations here. I've seen a lot of students try to forego the use of accommodations in college. They think they can get by, but I've seen a lot of mixed results on that. Accommodations are handled in a discrete fashion and are designed to provide a fair learning situation for students who are authorized to have them. The website, again, the website on this slide has links to all of those resources that I've discussed, plus many more. Lastly, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed thinking about college and the changes this is going to bring to your life, that's perfectly fine. College can be a very up and down experience until you get used to it. In your first year, you may encounter homesickness, loneliness, uncertainty, feelings of insecurity, anxiety, or depression. You may have been a top student before you find that you're much closer to average at Virginia Tech. You may just feel like you're lost in your courses. And what I want to tell you is it's okay to go through any of this. It's a learning process. Looking back at my own experiences in college, the one lesson I wish I had learned earlier is how to ask for help, whether that was academic help figuring out how to manage expectations, or just counseling when I was having a rough spot in my life. I didn't use the resources that were available enough when I was an undergraduate. Even though I did fine later on, I could have done better had I been a lot less stubborn about getting advice and using resources. It's normal and it's okay to experience any number of problems when you first go up to college, and you can recover from a certain amount of bad grades, but that becomes harder if you don't talk to others when you need help. So lastly, let me reemphasize that you're now a Hokie, you're part of the Virginia Tech community. We accepted you here because you're qualified and we have confidence in you. Thank you for your time. I'm going to pass this over to Dr. Lester. She's the College of Engineering's Director of Advising, and she's going to go over a lot of other important information.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So today I want to also walk us through some details regarding our virtual academic advising and course registration process. That is kind of part of what you're here for today. This is our college overview session, but I want to walk us through some other things that you may see outlined in our engineering timeline for this process. We'll have question and answer sessions for the different variety of opportunities for offices on campus. You will have the ability to make a one-on-one appointment with an academic advisor, and you will, of course, also do your class registration. So on the screen there, you should see that our timeline for the orientation process, and this is also outlined on our orientation website. One of the very first communications you received from our area of the university was a welcome message from me around May 6th through the 20th, depending on when you accepted your offer to the university. That message would have contained our engineering orientation checklist. That checklist is a really great resource that kind of starts you out with setting up your Virginia Tech username, making sure that you've done our two-factor authentication, to everything about how to locate who your academic advisor is. We try to make that as comprehensive as possible based on the resources that we have available to us as well. And it's really a good guide for you to understanding what you need to accomplish and when you need to accomplish those things. There were details on there about your housing contract, or if you're a transfer student, it had information on how to locate off-campus housing as well. On June 7th, or if you've accepted your offer after that time frame, especially if you're a new transfer student, you would have gotten an email around that time frame specifically regarding your virtual academic advising from your advising department. So that may have came directly from your academic advisor, or the message may have came from a general account that's associated with their advising program. But around that June 7th timeframe, that gave you specific instructions on what you need to do for the program that you're admitted into. So as a first-year engineering student, you're either in general engineering or building instruction, you would have got that message from your actual academic advisor. And if you're a transfer student, the same thing. If you're in a specific degree granting department, like computer science or material science engineering or so forth. Between June 12th and June 26th, that's when we will do all of our academic advising appointments. And that advising appointment structure will be varied by department. So with our first year program and general engineering students, you will have the opportunity to meet with an advisor all the way from June 12th all the way up until July 26th. If you're in a discipline like building instruction, they may have more of a condensed time frame. So definitely go back and reference that June 7th email. Especially if you're a transfer student on the Zoom call today, you'll be able to also see the specific details for your individual major. The actual act of class registration, that also began on June 12th. So students can register for your fall classes with the assistance of an advisor, or you can do it prior to meeting with an advisor. But ultimately, it is your responsibility to make sure that you are registered for your classes. Your advisor is not going to do that for you. So you can go on to our registration system and go ahead and proceed with registration for classes. My advice is to go ahead and try it out. And then when you're meeting with your advisor, if there's advice that's provided regarding what you might want to take as far as your course selection for the fall semester, you can always make adjustments after your advising appointment. In addition to kind of that structure, Dean Thompson and I, of course, are hosting this college overview session, and then we have those optional Q&A sessions as well. We will post the recording for the overview session and these optional Q&A sessions shortly following the presentation for that particular day, as long as all the audio quality and the recordings turn out okay. And they will be posted on our orientation website. And so we did already have a session specifically related to our computer requirement that was done on June 12th. And so you can watch the recording from that session if you have any questions about the computer requirement, the software bundle, the warranties, all those details is fully covered in that session with lots of additional questions for those of you who are used to using different type of computers and whether or not they may or may not meet the minimum specifications for the computer requirement for the College of Engineering. This afternoon, I will host a session with our Hokie Shops office. This is a Virginia Tech affiliated bookstore. And so they're going to come in and talk about where you can buy computers. They'll talk about textbooks. They'll talk about also apparel and other things. So that's always a good session if you have questions specifically about where to get your supplies to be a student here. Later in the summer, we will have a session for peer mentoring. So Dean Thompson mentioned that that's a resource out of the Center for Enhancement of Engineering Diversity office. And so this particular session that we will host will be for students who are not in Hypatia and Galileo or Digerati, which is our living learning communities, because being a part of that living learning community in the residence hall, you have peer mentoring built into your program. But in addition to being in that living learning community, students that are not living in that living learning community have the opportunity to participate in peer mentoring through the Center for Enhancement of Engineering Diversity office. And so that's a great opportunity if you're not living in Hope Hall that you can still seek and get peer mentoring through that program, which is fantastic. One of the other sessions that we'll host is on career support. We'll have our friends from Career and Professional Development come and host a session about co-ops, internships, and all kinds of ways to seek out opportunities for career fairs that we offer here in the College of Engineering and the university. And then our final session for the orientation program will be on study abroad. So we'll specifically highlight our program in the rising sophomore abroad area of the university, which is typically for upper students going into their sophomore year. And we also will have our friends from the Global Education Office talking about all the other opportunities for upperclassmen or internship opportunities as well within that study abroad area. So that kind of gives you a lay of the land of some of the opportunities that you have to get more information about particular areas within kind of our College of Engineering realm, but also we want to showcase a few additional details about our structure. On the orientation website, we have if you start at the top of that website, it's going to give you the engineering timeline that I just went over. It also gives you samples of all the emails. So if you've missed that that May email, or if you miss that June email, you can find a copy of a sample that gives you the bulk of the content that you would have received if you're unable to locate your original copy. So we do that. So also families, you can go and see the content that's been provided to your student. And of course, students, you can go back and reference it if you can't find your copy or you accidentally deleted or it may went into your spam folder. One thing that I will reiterate is on your Virginia Tech email, please make sure that you are checking that on a daily basis. Your Virginia Tech vt.edu account is a Microsoft account, so you want to make sure that you are logging into your Microsoft to be able to access your Virginia Tech email account. On the engineering orientation resources page, it does reiterate the orientation checklist. It has information about our placement if students are going to be enrolling in calculus or chemistry, depending on your intended major. It has the link out to the specific specs for the computer requirement. We also have a section specifically dedicated to the self-evaluation of transfer credits. So if you're expecting AP, IB, or dual enrollment, or any transfer credit from a previous institution, you can go and use the guides on that website to show how classes have previously transferred to Virginia Tech. I also want to make sure that you're aware that if you were a senior in high school, and you took an AP exam maybe in May during the senior year, in the state of Virginia, we are expected to receive those AP scores on July 8th. And so shortly after that, you will see those posted on your Virginia Tech official records, and I'll show you how to check that in just a moment. One thing I will also share there is if you do have credit for a class and from AP specifically, and you choose to re-enroll in that class at Virginia Tech, maybe accidentally choose, then you would automatically get dropped from any classes you have AP credit from. It's called an AP duplicate drop process. And so once AP classes come into the university, and for example, if you enroll in a history class, but you end up having AP credit for that history class, then we will automatically drop you from duplicating credit so that you don't accidentally sign up for a class that you already have credit for. That'll run for the majority of the summer, typically weekly. So don't be surprised if you accidentally sign up for something and you go in and you notice that it's no longer on your class schedule. And there is information about that process on our frequently asked questions on the orientation page as well. If you are curious about what classes you're going to take your entire time at the university, there is a link also to our check sheets and advising guides. And the advising guides is what you will use as an entering student this year for 2024 and 2025. You'll see the specific coursework listed on that advising guide and in the area typically on the second or third page, depending on the program's format. You'll also see a specific roadmap or a listing of classes that you will typically take every single semester in order to graduate with that particular degree. You will also have resources on how to do class registration. So remember earlier I mentioned you can go ahead and register for classes. So with using those advising guides, knowing how your transfer credits are coming in, you can utilize the class registration system. However, if you are working ahead of time and doing your class registration and you try to register for a class and it says major restriction, what that means is the class is not available to you, that particular section. And so some departments will restrict classes to their majors only throughout orientation. And at the end of orientation, they may, if they have capacity in that particular class, they might open it up. However, there are also certain sections of classes. So chemistry is a great example. Chemistry is something that a lot of engineering majors will take, but certain sections of that may be reserved for engineering students only. And I'll talk a little bit about how you can check that in a moment. We typically get lots of questions about, well, how do I change if I'm in general engineering and I want to change my major to my specific department later on? There is a section outlining that change of major process and the specific courses and GPA requirements that you need in order to make that process happen. We reiterate the resources and support that Dean Thompson went over also on that link and the frequently asked questions. In addition to the orientation website that we have publicly facing for everyone to be able to see, there is a Canvas site to try to kind of help educate you on what we use as our learning management platform. And there you will locate some information about This process, there'll be additional tutorials on some course registration information. There's one specifically for transfer students that you are all invited to join, and I'll resend that invitation for anyone that hasn't found that site. We will also have one for general engineering students that you should be going in, doing some quizzes to gain access to meet with your advisor. And then there's also one for building construction students. And so that is the way for you to be able to have that information. If you do have any kind of advanced placement classes, dual enrollment, or even if you're just sending your high school transcripts, you do want to make sure that you send your transcripts and score reports to Virginia Tech. You have to send all of your high school, college, and university transcripts to the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. Once they're sent through admissions and they do their processes and checks on that transcript, they will route that transcript to our registrar's office to get posted officially on your Virginia Tech records. So you also want to make sure that you're sending your official score reports directly from the agency that you took the classes through. So you will send that from College Board for AP, for example, directly from College Board to Virginia Tech. The same thing is if you did dual enrollment in high school and you took classes through your local community college, you need to contact the community college that you took the class through and have them send your transcript to Virginia Tech. Your high school transcript or other transcripts in previous institutions can't have multiple institutions on that transcript for us to award credit. It has to come from the original source. And so those would come directly from College Board or directly from the institution that you're transferring from. Or if the dual enrollment, you have to send your high school transcript plus the community college or other institution transcript that you sent. And of course, the transfer students on the call today, maybe if you went to one or two different universities, you want to make sure you send those. And also, if you also did AP, you want to go back and contact College Board and have them send your score reports to Virginia Tech as well. So you are able to access your student records on Hokie Spa, and it is your responsibility to make sure that those transfer credits come in accurately and also that everything looks appropriately on your transfer and other additional credit screen on Hokie Spa. It is critical that you ensure that all of that expected transfer credit reflects correctly. It is about a 3-week time frame for transcripts to get processed right now with our registrar's office, but you can go into Hokie Spa. You go to the grades menu and then you'll click on transfer and other additional credits. And that's where you'll be able to see dual enrollment, transcripts from other universities, AP, IB, CLEP, Cambridge, and all that kind of credit. You won't be able to see anywhere that your high school transcripts have been received by the university, but the admissions office is telling me that they are emailing students once they have received those transcripts to the university. If you do have transfer credits coming in, you will also see potentially a notation on a class that might need additional information for evaluation, and it will say send syllabus to credits at vt.edu. So that requires you to take action on that particular class. Maybe the class is not transferred to the university previously, so you will want to make sure that you do send that transcript or that syllabus to credits at vt.edu. So that your credits can be evaluated and given appropriate equivalency at the university. The structure of the way it works within our university and within the College of Engineering here at Virginia Tech is if you're admitted as a first-time in college student out of high school into one of our engineering programs specifically, we kind of have two different program types. We have what's called restricted programs and unrestricted programs. And what restricted programs means is you have to have certain classes or criteria in order to move or transition into that particular program. And so for those of you who are as a general engineering student in the Department of Engineering Education as a first-time in college student, your major is currently general engineering. And so if you already set up your username, you would know that that's what you would have had to put in to be able to gain access to all of those details. So general engineering allows you to move into one of our restricted degree programs. Our degree programs are listed on the screen here, everything from our aerospace and ocean engineering degree through our mining engineering program. So you have to complete those change of major courses. There's 5 of them, 12 GPA hours, and have a competitive GPA. 3.0 will guarantee you admission into one of these programs if you are in general engineering currently. In addition to our restricted programs, of course, we have our building instruction program. It's considered a non-restricted degree program. These are classifications internally to Virginia Tech. And so what that means is if you're currently in an engineering major, let's just say computer engineering, and you want to change to building instruction, you can do so without any specific criteria necessary or admissions criteria. However, you have to change your major at certain times of the year. And so the change in major window is only going to be open at the end of each academic semester. So for us, the next cycle is going to be the end of summer, and then we'll have the end of fall, and then the end of spring. And the majority of students in general engineering are going to change into a specific program at the end of spring, or typically May or August, depending on the coursework completed. The way that the curriculum also works, so if on that orientation website, you'll see those advising guides. Those advising guides are going to lay out all the courses you need to take for your particular program. And so for here, the way that I wanted to display the content of those advising guides is showcasing that all of our programs, regardless of what you're pursuing, so mining engineering, building instruction, are all going to have pathways general education courses. So these are going to be your general education coursework. That's going to make up about 39% of your degree requirements. And this is, of course, across all of our programs. These are the averages. We also have our degree core. That's about 24% of your program. Your major courses, that's 22%. And then you might have some elective courses, and that's going to be about 15% depending on your program. So it's 4 major areas of your degree are made up of these categories of courses that you have to have in order to earn your full degree at the university. The credit hours for our program range between 122 to 129. These are, of course, higher than some majors at the university. In general, 120 is kind of where a lot of programs outside of the College of Engineering has their coursework in. In engineering programs at Virginia Tech and across the country, typically it's a little bit higher. And so that's why we're going to recommend a course load each semester of 15 to 17 credit hours per semester so that you can graduate within 8 semesters with that workload. And so you can see kind of that breakdown on the screen for yourself. In addition to the kind of format that I just shared with you, the unofficial advising guides are going to be a great resource for you to see all of those details, but it's also going to lay out all the courses that you have for fall and spring of your entire duration of the degree program. So definitely make sure you are utilizing that to fully understand all the courses that you have at Virginia Tech in the College of Engineering. Dean Thompson mentioned academic advising as being one of the people that you can go to for support. I want to reiterate that, but also talk about who is your academic advisor. So you can view your academic advisor assignment on Hokie Spa. That's been out there since early May. And you can see that person's name under View Your General Student Information. You can make appointments with your advisor once you gain access to that. So for general engineering students, you have to first complete some things on Canvas, and then you're invited to make an appointment with your general engineering advisor or an advisor that's helping with the summer orientation process. They have a whole team of folks that are supporting that process. And then in addition, if you are, let's say, a transfer student, you would have been sent a specific email with a link inviting you to make an appointment with your advisor through Navigate. Navigate is our platform you use for making appointments with your advisor. You always want to discuss things like your academic progress, your grades, your course registration. If you have questions about campus involvement, if you have questions about academic and career goals, those are all great things to bring to your advisor and have a conversation about. You are able, again, to make that appointment through our Navigate platform. So that's what you'll have in order to do that. In order to be a full-time student in a given semester, you have to minimally have 12 credit hours. That's to be a full-time student. Full-time status is required for students who live on campus. It's required if you receive financial aid. Some of our scholarships require that or even higher of a minimum criteria. If you're an NCAA athlete, you have to be meeting that progress toward your degree in order to be eligible for participation. And also, if you're an international student here on a visa, you have to minimally meet these minimum criteria in order to be able to continue your enrollment at the university. Like I mentioned earlier, 15 to 17 credits is the typical recommendation for engineering students. This is necessary to complete your degrees within that 4 years. There are going to be some exceptions to that. Some of our students in the Corps Cadets or ROTC programs might have more credit hours, but 19 is going to be the maximum number of credits that any new student can take in your first semester of enrollment at the university. Course registration is open from June 12th until August 30th. And so class registration goes beyond the first week of classes until August 30th. You go into Hokie Spa and course registration schedule menu, and you'll have the ability to use our add drops system. There is several tools that you can utilize for registration. There's something called Hokie Scheduler, or there's also something called registration add and drop and schedule, and that allows you to go in and register for classes. There are some video tutorials on Canvas. Also, you will see those video tutorials on our website. Those have all been provided to be able to support you for this registration process. Honestly, you can probably figure it out quicker than any of us, especially your family members or even myself. The class registration is much more of a technology utilization. And so typically you are a lot more efficient at that than some of us. So within the major and course registration process, I do want to remind you about the major and course restrictions. So some courses are major restricted, and what that means is only students officially enrolled within that major or a set of majors can enroll in that particular class. But what you can do is utilize the timetable classes to search by term, pathway subject, course number, the course request number, which is a specific number that's associated with that particular class, time, instructor, location. And that will allow you to also see modality of the class. In that search results, you can click on the CRN on the far left-hand side to view the course prereqs, the co-requisites, and the restrictions. So that's a great way for you. Like if you're getting frustrated with registration, like why won't it let me add this class? Make sure you're checking the restrictions and that you are eligible to enroll in the class for prerequisites, but also your major, making sure you check that. But you can go ahead and register now. In order to do so, you do need to click the prepare for registration area within the registration screen, update your emergency contact information and your local mailing address and some of those details in order to go through the registration process. And sometimes all those pieces are not here like at the beginning of orientation, but as we get closer, you'll see all those details. You will also, once you kind of finalize your class schedule, one of my best kind of tips or advice to share with you is that if you go into Hokie Spa and you have utilized the Hokie Scheduler or you utilize the registration and drop add system for class registration, to make sure and to feel confident that you have enrolled in your classes, you can go into Hokie Spa and click on Classic Student Schedule, and that gives you kind of a very nice condensed version of what you're enrolled in. This is what all of us use in order to kind of know quickly what classes you're enrolled in, where they're at located. It gives you the title of the course, the grading option, the credit hours. It also on the far right-hand side will give you your exam schedule. So if you are planning to make travel arrangements at the end of a semester, you want to make sure that you are checking the exam schedule though first, and don't schedule any travel plans until after final exams have concluded. And so that's where you can check your specific exam schedule as well and additional details. But also on the first week of classes, feel free to also confirm with your instructor to make sure that your exam schedule is in alignment with what you see on your actual class schedule. And that's very important if you are trying to make flight plans or travel arrangements at the end of every semester. Some quick reminders on some of the dates or key academic dates that are coming up soon. Of course, classes are going to begin on August 26th. The last day to add any courses to your schedule is going to be August 30th. But let's say you add 17 credit hours on your schedule and you decide that one of your classes is not working out, then you have the ability to drop a course all the way up until October 8th. And so you do have the ability to drop a class within that. There are a list of all of our academic dates and deadlines for the entire semester on the dates and deadlines link that you see here on the screen. This URL is also on your engineering orientation checklist as one of the things that you should kind of bookmark and have. It's something I use every single semester also for my own internal planning. So definitely make sure that you are looking at that for any arrangements that you need to make at the end of the semesters as well, to know when the semester ends, winter breaks, and so forth for your time at the university. If you are interested in staying informed through social media and platforms, there is a ton of different platforms that we utilize within the College of Engineering. And so on the screen here, you'll be able to see some of those platforms. We do have a really great Facebook opportunities websites called Engineering Opportunities that we will post internships, co-ops, and part-time jobs. We try our very best to not flood you with a ton of emails in your Virginia Tech email account unless it's related from our office to an academic date, deadline, or policy. And so a lot of those announcement type things are going to be on some of our social media platforms, or if you're a transfer student in a specific department, your program might have a communication strategy in place that they send emails maybe once a week for those kinds of announcement details. You will be able to see all of the social media for specific departments also on that social URL. So if you are particularly interested in finding social media for a particular major, you can locate that too on that website. So a few final reminders that I want to share with you is that you want to make sure your class schedule does have 15 to 17 credit hours. The orientation website, your degree requirements, and all of that is located on the orientation page. You will also see a ton of frequently asked questions on there, so definitely make sure you are checking that out. And you want to also mark your calendar for our weeks of welcome sessions. So Dean Thompson and I will do college sessions, give you a little bit more intel into the College of Engineering on August 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Those are all held from 9 to 11 a.m. in Burris Hall Auditorium. The date that you are required to attend depends on your specific move-in, and so we do have that outlined on our website. You will also all be invited as students to the college social. And so the college social is going to be from 2 to 4 at Goodwin Hall and Lawn. And that's going to be on August 23rd, that Friday. And there is specific arrival instructions for that as well, based upon your last name, or if you're in one of the seed programs, you arrive with your seed mentors typically at the specific times that's kind of outlined for you. So definitely check that out. So that concludes the pieces that I wanted to share with you today. And so what we'll do now is we will open it up to questions, but I want to thank you very much for attending this session today. We really appreciate you being here. And I will also post this recording on our website shortly after we conclude. Thank you very much.